pole. We manufacture walking poles, but we also importantly do educational courses. So we have different certifications, and we have a background in working with community health centers, community centers, lots of different organizations to be able to implement our programs. And so we were very happy to be a part of this today, talking about promoting mental health within our community through active living. So, sorry, I should have asked, how do you advance this slide?
Just let me know. I'll give me a sign and I'll go forward. Yeah.
Would you be able to advance this slide? Thanks. Okay, so I was just going to start off telling you a little bit about what urban polling, also known as Nordic walking, is. Just with a show of hands, how many of you have heard of Nordic walking before? Good. Okay, so a whole lot of people haven't. So the whole idea behind Nordic walking is that you're basically adding specialized poles, so uniquely designed walking poles, to your walk. Okay. And the interesting part about it is that you're getting a combination of both aerobic plus resistance training in one workout. Okay. So the whole idea is that, I'll just give you a really quick view of this. When you're pushing down into the ledge of the handle, you're actually contracting your core and upper body muscles. So versus walking without poles, where you've got about 40% of your body's muscles working, all the muscles highlighted in blue there, all the very light, right, from the glute mats down, are actively contracting when you're walking. When you add poles, you've now got your upper body engaged as well, active muscle contraction. So nearly 90% of your body's muscles are working simultaneously. Importantly, you're getting right into your core, okay, your abdominal muscles, your lat muscles. So it is about 1,000 abdominal contractions per kilometer, which is what a lot of people don't realize. Okay, so phenomenal to be able to stabilize. These are our stabilizing muscles, right? So balance and posture. Because of this, it does help to promote good posture, balance, and stability. It does help to reduce the impact on our load-bearing joints, so that's knees and ankles. And through our poles provides a ergonomic handle. And there we go. So the interesting thing is that we actually hired a doctor with us on consult about 5 or 6 years ago, just to help us vet the research, because at the time there was about 60 published studies. And we thought, well, you know, this is something here. So we had her go through all of them and help to summarize them, and we did a bunch of webinars. And now, fast forward about 5 years, and there's over 200 published studies. So definitely a growing area for research, but certainly what a lot of people have noticed is there's a whole lot more people out on the road doing this. So there's got to be something to this, and really it's because there is. So for just about every chronic disease under the sun, as a prevention and management program, this can apply. And at the end of the day, when you think about it, the vast majority of the population can walk. So adding poles to your walk is not a huge leap, nor is it a significant investment to be able to improve your health. So it's a very accessible program. The other really neat thing about it is that it truly is for all seasons and all terrain. So I myself enjoy snowshoeing. I've also just started, because of my kids, I'm trying to learn to downhill ski again, which is much scarier as an adult than it is for my 7-year-old. But I use them for all of that. So we go hiking with our poles. You can take off a little rubber bootie. See the bootie, which is great to grip on, like if you're going to go out the sidewalk or the street. But underneath the bootie is a carbide steel tip. So if you're walking on slippery surfaces, if you're walking on gravel or sand, it's wonderful for all those things. So again, as a program, to be able to use it within a community setting, you have options for year-round usage. Not to mention, if you're working within a center, perhaps that does have an indoor track, that's what some of the YMCAs are doing across Canada, so they'll incorporate it that way, as well as some of the community health centers. And this quote I quite like. Exercise not only changes our body, it changes our mind, our attitude, and our mood. And I think for myself, working mom with 2 young kids, I certainly rely on exercise to help me manage my day-to-day life. So certainly when I go out on a walk, I feel better. And even when I'm out and if my kids are with me, not quite the same feeling in terms of de-stressing, but there's just something about the whole experience, about the fresh air, being out in the trees, changes the mindset, and I think that's really important. So in terms of, why are we polling for mental health? Well, I just cited some of those things in terms of my personal experience, but there is some research behind this. So it is proven to help boost self-esteem, reduce stress, encourages a positive self-image, promotes social interaction. This is a big one that I'm going to talk about, specifically again with the community lens in mind. That's such a huge part of why people come out to things like this, right? Is the ability to interact with others and have a walk and talk. That's a really important part. It has been proven to improve sleep, help fight fatigue or really boost energy. It is a healthy tool to promote weight management. And just generally, as an overall, increases quality of life. And this was actually, so that there has been a whole lot of research done about the benefits of exercise, of course, as it relates to mental health, but specifically more and more research is emerging, which I'm sure you're very aware of, about the benefits of actually being active outdoors. So we actually connected with a researcher out of she's in Quebec, out of the Montreal area, Marianne Lemieux, and she was looking at the benefits of outdoor exercise programs versus indoor exercise programs. And not surprisingly, what she did find is that people who were doing physical activity outdoors actually had a lower resting blood pressure and also a more significant improvement in well-being as opposed to some of the other participants who were doing exercise indoors. The other really important part, as she related this to Nordic walking, is that people are more likely to stick to a Nordic walking program versus an everyday walking program. So that's another really important component in terms of being able to attract people to a program within the community and retain them. It has very high levels of success.
Why do you think that is?
You know what, I think there's a number of reasons why I think that is, but what we found from our clients in particular, and I can only really speak to that, is that a lot of people find, for whatever reason, I'm not one of them, they find walking boring. So suddenly when you add poles, it creates another level of dimension for them, and it is quite fun. Also, they probably see benefits more quickly, and it's physiological as well as from a mental health perspective. The other thing is, I think as a society in general, broadly, forgetting about the poles, I don't think we spend enough time outside. So I think that the fact that while you can do this inside, the vast majority of people will do it outside, I think that's a really big factor. Okay. This is one disorder that I just wanted to put this in here because I do think that quite a few people experience this, whether they're aware of it or not. The statistics are about 25% of Canadians that will report this seasonal affective disorder, but I think all of us experience this a little bit, if we're being honest, right? So I know on days myself when it's nice and bright and sunny and all of those things, I just feel like I might have a touch more energy sometimes when it starts to get a little dark too early and I'm feeling like I'm going out in the dark, I'm home in the dark, and even my kids, I notice a difference. So again, I think this whole idea of actually getting that vitamin D and your dose of vitamin N, right, nature, getting outside, experiencing the trees and the fresh air, it's statistically proven to help, but I think if you were going to report on a feeling of people who maybe committed to a program over 6 weeks and ask them how they felt pre and post and during, I think you'd see quite quickly a trend in a positive way. And if you wouldn't mind just clicking again, sorry. So one of the pieces that's actually me and my son there, he was quite a bit younger. We were doing the Terry Fox walk, and so I just wanted to say that just in general, this is a really great activity to be able to do as a family. So a pre-postnatal certainly I can attest to, but also just with kids, there's no reason not to get them out doing this. You could click just again, sorry, I made this one complicated. And just one more. Perfect. So I'm sure everybody's seen this before, right? The wellness continuum. So this is what a lot of our programs are kind of based around, is the fact that we truly do feel that that our program can sort of help to touch on all these different aspects of the wellness continuum, certainly from a physical perspective. Socially, very often this is done and organized in groups. Again, if our physical, if we're feeling good physically, often that does reflect in terms of our emotional well-being as well. I myself, I feel like spiritual and environmental are connected, at least for me. I know that I very often will sort of have, a little bit of meditation and prayer when I'm out on my own. That's my own personal belief, but I do feel that anybody else in the room that might feel this way as well. Yes? Okay. And then finally, intellectually. So, although the fact that this is a fairly easy form of fitness to learn, there's quite a bit happening in the body to be able to get 90% of your body's muscles going at the same time. There's a lot of things firing. So there is quite a bit around the stimulation that you are getting through this type of fitness versus some others. And perfect. And then, just as I mentioned, I think this piece, as it relates to what you are trying to do, from what I understand, in building these communities and bringing people in to be able to partake, I think this has got to be one of the most important components, is just offering a safe environment where people feel like they can connect with others through some kind of positive activity, whatever that activity is. And so, again, I feel like this is something that could help to bridge, even and relate to other activities perhaps that you're already considering incorporating. It's a really nice complement, and I know we've been involved in some other programs as it relates to mental health, mood walks, and there was a study actually out of University of Guelph Humber on the benefits of this program for staff, mental health and wellness. But one of the biggest things people always say is they like the social aspect. So it is an important part to cite when we're talking about this overall. And also, walking, in itself is language, and it's a universal language. So you can walk alongside just about anybody. You don't necessarily have to be speaking to them. They may not understand your language, you may not understand theirs, but it doesn't really matter, because you're out walking and you've got somebody beside you, and there's something to that. So for this reason, I think the community programs that have been established have been quite successful. This is just an example of one that I wanted to share with you. This was a YMCA out of Halifax, and they started a newcomer urban polling program. It was, as you can see, in an indoor setting in this case. They started it, I feel like they started it in the fall, so they went right through the winter, and as we know, our winters, some people like to brave it, a lot of people like to be inside, so it was a good option for them to be able to leverage the track. But it went quite well. And based on that, we are actually trying very hard to, right now, actually expand our instructional materials to be translated in more languages. Also because of another project that we've been involved with here in Toronto, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, where there was a need to have different languages be reflected. So the reality is that starting up a program like this, this is just one example of ways that you can incorporate it, but it can be quite tricky, and we are very hands-on. So anybody that's worked with our company will attest to the fact that we're very committed to ensuring that programs are successful, and we pride ourselves on our educational platform as much as we do the quality of our polls. So we're certainly available for that. And there we go. As I mentioned earlier, there are opportunities to be able to combine this with other programs that you may be considering, whether it be physical activity or not. So very often this whole idea of this walk and talk, where you maybe even have a guest speaker come in, start off your session and then go out for a walk, come back, have a tea. It's that whole social, information, intellectual, all of those different components that allow for very often a very successful program. And this is quite small, but I think you're getting copies of this. We were involved in a project called Fit for Life. It was funded, I believe, by Trillium. It was out of Flemington Health Center. Anna Azaria was the lady who was leading the program. I don't know if any of you in here worked with Anna previously, but she's excellent. And she led the establishment of, this is not all of them actually, but quite a few different community health centers who had adopted this Nordic Walking program. And she made it very dynamic. So I myself have delivered about 8 or 9 different chronic disease prevention and management presentations through her program. So she's really offered a lot to her participants aside from establishing, this exercise platform. I know she'd be available to, speak to anyone just to bounce ideas off. She's very, very good. She's also associated with the Canadian Centre of Activity and Aging. But this is all very accessible within community health centers in terms of the program, which is free of charge. The polls are there. You've got your instructor. It's a great opportunity for people in the area to be able to reach out and again meet others at no charge. And these are just a few quotes of what some of our clients have told us. So for example, the top one, Gabriella, she said, I found as I went on that it calmed me down and became a form of meditation, and my stamina actually improved through treatment. So she was actually going through cancer treatment at the time. She's now cancer-free. Obviously not totally related to the polls, but they helped her in terms of managing her mental health as she was going through that process. Another person, instead of socializing with my friends with food, I started scheduling exercise sessions with them. Urban polling. We love it. Urban polling and eating well have been the best thing for my mental health. It helped me with my depression. Another quote, I use my polls as often as I can really feel the difference in my mood if I have missed too many days. So those are just a few examples of what some of our program participants have said along the way. And as I mentioned, there's no shortage of research. So across just about every area you can think of, and it's all on PubMed for you to be able to go on and see. On our website, you can also see 10 research studies that are specific to our program. You just click one more. And then I'm going to ask you actually to click again, because this is just more of the research in all different areas. But at the end of the day, the number one reason people say that they do this, despite all the research, is that it's fun. It's worth trying. Okay? And just one more. There we go. Now, this is a video. You might have to just hit the little... I just had one video to end it, which just kind of showcases what it's all about, more so. Oh, I think it might be on slow.
I think there's a drag between this.
It's what, sorry?
There's a drag between.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a little bit slow-mo, but you can kind of get a sense of what's happening. I can also send this as a link after, just so you can see it, but this is the whole idea, is that no matter where you are, this is your gym, right? Whether it's out on the street, the sidewalk, the park, that's it. So that was what I had for you for today. I was asked to leave some time for questions, so I'm happy to answer any that you have. You can just click forward one more, and then that's the end of the... Yes, absolutely.
What is the cost of the polls?
So retail, they're $100. However, for community centers, obviously it's not retail. So we have a whole wholesale cost structure in place. Could be anywhere from about 25 to nearly 50% off our retail for community centers to be able to adopt this program.
You're talking about community centers or community health centers?
Basically we only sell retail to the end user, right, through our website. But pretty much every other organization that we work with, we have a wholesale cost structure in place. And importantly as well is the education that we provide. So 3.5-hour certification courses to be able to allow you to properly execute the program, because the polls are one part of it, but the technique is another really big piece. Yeah.
Would you demonstrate any of the technique today?
Sure, that's what I was hoping the video would do. Also, I should say I don't usually wear cat outfits with rubber boots to to presentations, but I was at my kids' school for a Halloween parade. This is hence the attire. Can I just hold that for a second? Okay. So the whole idea is I'm going to demonstrate. This is more of the I'm going to say like the propulsion technique, because we also have a technique for people who might not be as sure-footed, which is different. Okay, but at the end of the day, the boot tips face back, and they're designed to propel you forward. Okay, versus we do have another type of pole that has like a bell-shaped tip, right? And so those are for people, button lock system, that maybe are at risk of falls or are just, you know, a little bit older or have a condition, for example, where their balance is compromised, and they would adopt more of this technique. So slightly different pole, and also education and instruction, so that, you know, you can make sure that you've got the full spectrum covered. And the nice thing is that it also bridges. Sorry, can everybody hear me?
Go ahead.
Sorry about that. The nice thing is that it also, you know, bridges the age divide too, right? So you can have, you know, like my mom's 66 and she'll go walking with me and my daughter who's now 9. So it's kind of nice.
Is it kind of the same as the mountain last side? Because I'm going to the mountains quite often, so I have those poles for mountains. It's a little bit different tip at the bottom.
Right. No, that's a good question. So I didn't want to spend a lot of time describing the equipment because I didn't want it to hear salesy, but I will explain to you that when you take off the rubber tip, which you're using on, as I mentioned, like streets. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. When you take off the rubber tip, which you're using on, you know, this floor is even a bit slippery, but if you're using it on like pavement, roads, streets, concrete, then you would want the rubber tip because you don't want this metal tip constantly hitting the ground. It's terrible. It sounds terrible and it feels terrible. But then let's say you're going hiking and now you're on a terrain which is more like wet grass, gravel, sand, anything where the rubber is not going to grip, then you just pop them off, throw them in your pocket or your pack, and you've got the carbide steel tip down below. So that's what I was saying. It's one piece of equipment, but there's so many different usages. And really, I think what we need to encourage is for people to continue to stay active year-round, because I really feel that we have this cyclical thing happening in Canada where we hibernate for 6 months and then we feel terrible at the end of it, and we try, you know, get motivated again. You know, so I think programs like this, where we are encouraging this physical activity year-round, whether it's polling or whatever it ends up being, you know, running programs, things like that, I think they're important. Well, they're sold in a whole lot of areas, so we sell them online. Some Shoppers Drug Marts carry them. Wellwise by Shoppers Drug Mart, different pharmacies. I can provide more information on that maybe through Nadia. Yeah.
Yeah, but many different organizations also, you know, have them. Like Eddie Bauer's having a sale right now. It's $25 for it. And they're really good.
You need something
as well. Yeah.
You need something very reliable.
Yeah,
They're all different types. It's like cars, right? It's like anything. You do your research and look at the difference, and yeah, that's the best thing to do. Any other questions about the programming specifically, or the education beside the polls? Yep.
We have a senior programmer agency, and we think of introducing this activity to them.
Yeah.
And if we invite you to come for a session, would you bring polls for them to try?
For sure.
Walk around the neighborhood?
Yeah. You just have to tell me roughly how many people you expect to be there. Because if you said 100, I probably wouldn't have 100 demo polls, but you know, I wouldn't have 100 demo polls, but I would do my best to have as many as, yeah, of course, absolutely. Any other questions?
How long are the walks usually when you do it for newcomers?
Yeah, good question. How long are the walks? So one thing that people don't realize is that the perceived level of exertion is quite low versus what's actually happening in your body when you're doing this. So when you first start off with a group, you know, in the first week, if you went out for 25 minutes, the majority of them would be quite winded at the end, because there's a lot more happening in the body. So recommend you starting off and graduating people up. So maybe in your first session, you show some videos on, you know, the science behind this and what's happening in the body. You go over 25 minutes, come back. The next week you go over 30 minutes. The next week, and so you keep graduating it up. But usually most people will do an hour. 45 minutes to an hour is what most programs are for this. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.